Hey everybody, this is Duke in Belarus coming to you from Baranovichi on the 7th of April 2023. I believe it's Friday. Well, I know it's Friday. I'm not sure about the date, but I think it's the 7th. Yes, so let's talk a little bit about some news. Yesterday I was doing hamburger day kind of, so didn't talk so much about news, but today, I can fill in all the things I haven't been talking about. And if you remember, I think it was yesterday that Zelensky said that Russia has one last chance before their total defeat, I guess. They have to surrender, leave all the occupied territories, which is surrender, or else. And as I have been saying all the time, that the main goal is always the Crimea, and all you hear is Crimea, 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 Crimea. And that's you know who that is. That's the United States behind them, saying we want the Crimea. Look at all that we've been doing for you, and the trade-off is the Crimea. We want the Crimea. That's where we're going to put our military base. And like I said, I remember back in my days. It's also the days of Scott Ritter and Colonel Macgregor, and I'm sure if somebody asks them if they remember, because if I know, they should know. I did a lot of. I was around a lot of officers and congressmen and things like that. It's not that I sit there and talk shop with these guys all the time. Normally, even though I had a top, security clearance, they didn't talk about that stuff with me. But I know, and I know from doctrine. I read a lot of books from that time and things like that. It was the goal, as I've always said, was to kick Russia out of the Crimea because they ceased to be an empire. And as you know, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, I was in before the collapse of the Soviet Union. You know that they got the rough ideas. Hey, well, we'll expand NATO, and then we'll also take the Crimea. And so obviously it's to get the Crimea. That's the new doctrine, and that came in obviously after my time in the military service. So I mean, it's undeniable. They that what it was, to contain Russia, and then that's to rule Russia. That's to make sure Russia can never rise again. And if you think back, you talk about the Crimean War, was that 1865 or whatever? I'll tell you what, even the Turks back then, British, everybody's wanted the Crimea. So what's to change that from today? So, and it's the United States now, not Zelensky. Zelensky sits there talking about, oh, we'll be on the beaches. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, like I always do. Like I say, I'm not really that organized. I don't have a desk to write things on, so I write things on my lap or something, and there's no light. So it's kind of rough right now, as it has been for quite some time. And when I move to Minsk, which should be very soon, maybe in a week, I can get a little bit more organized. It won't be exactly right away. I have a desk, but I have to put it together, and you know how that is. So yes, so they still want that. And then there's Poland and Ukraine. They're talking about being one nation. I don't remember who said that. Was it Zelensky or was it Duda? But everybody's talking about that there's something going to be going down. There's something going to be, and then they're talking about this threat against Russia. I'm just sort of wondering, because the Ukraine, even the entire West really doesn't, of course, if the US or even Poland joined in, of course, that would slow things down immensely for Russia. They have momentum going right now, very slow. And they're obviously the more powerful country compared to Ukraine, in spite of all of the help that Ukraine is getting from, the combined sparable weapons from NATO. But I think that even if Poland joined in, sure it would be a speed bump. It would be a speed bump for Russia, but it's not going to be anything earth-shattering. So I'm thinking maybe what this is going to be. This is maybe they're planning some sort of administrative move where it's going to be like one country. I wonder if they call it Ukraine or will they call it Poland? At least they're hinting at that even. I mean, y'all see that. Yeah. But so let me jump to some other place right now. Because that's how I wrote it in my notes. Well, let's see. Did I write something down here? Well, I'll first mention that a little bit. It's like there's some little piece of news before I talk about Clarence Thomas from the Supreme Court. But the little piece of news is that they now say they know who's at fault for the debacle of Afghanistan. At least they're admitting that it was a debacle. You know, a lot of people, American soldiers even lost their lives and all that. Terrible, terrible thing. But now they know who did it. The Biden administration. It was Trump. Trump did it. You know, easy scapegoat. Maybe, I don't know. At least it wasn't Russia this time, or Iran, you know. So Trump did it. So now let's talk a little bit about this Supreme Court Justice, Clarence Thomas. He's known as the most conservative of the conservative side of the Supreme Court. And, you know, you have to ask, well, he's black. He's got black skin, you know. Diversity, what about diversity? You know, and the Democrats are really going after them. They hate this guy. And apparently, there is some sort of a charge of corruption that he was getting vacations and whatnot paid for maybe decades, maybe for over 20 years. Flights paid for and hotel and who knows what all, maybe with all the trimmings from some donor called Harlan Crow. And in a way, it kind of reminds me of, remember Barack Obama when he was letting his daughter use Air Force One to go on vacation with all her friends to Mexico? You know, that's not quite as bad as that would be with Clarence Thomas, but it's also not so good. And then you hear about John McCain. What are they called? The Keating Five. Remember the Keating Five? When John McCain, he was getting luxury vacations. Oh gosh, there's another Republican. But anyhow, there's this stuff going on all the time. If you want to talk about corruption, just look at Nancy Pelosi. You can look in and you can find all sorts of stuff through her husband as her proxy, you know, for them to get stinking rich, you know, computer chips. Taiwan, when she went to Taiwan, she went to visit you know, this computer chip factory or whatever, and now they're supplanting themselves in Arizona, putting these computer chips over there. You know, get them out of the way before China can maybe get them. You know, but there's so much corruption, you know. And then you talk about Clarence Thomas and, you know, AOC. She's flipping out. You can look it up all yourself. To me, it's a lot about a circus. It's you know, and even the stuff about Trump is a circus. You know, this stuff, and none of this is supposed to hold any water. The statute of limitations ran out. You know, and sure, you pay hush money. You know, you're running for president of the United States, and they have all of these attacks on Donald Trump. You know, if he sees some way where he pays a little bit of money, for him, it's what, is $130,000, you know, just to shut the, you know, so he doesn't have to go around stomping out fires. That's one little fire he wouldn't have to stomp out, you know, even if he maybe have never even met Stormy Daniels. I don't have any idea. It's not exciting to me, and everybody's supposed to, that's right up the, in the area what they accused Trump of, you know. But I think, you know, this thing with Clarence Thomas, if he's put out of office in the Biden's time, that means that Biden gets to appoint some wacko nut job to the Supreme Court. You know, just think of that. So look at I don't know, you look at all these people that have been appointed to these. What about that one? Remember that one guy? Well, is it a guy? Well, I guess it's a guy. Wears this lipstick, has his head shaved, has a mustache, wears lipstick, and wears women's dresses, and he was stealing people's luggage. Makes you wonder how much luggage this guy has stolen that they've never caught up with. You know, he acts like he's a male transgender woman's fashion icon. Really crazy stuff. I don't know if that person resigned or was put out or whatever, if they're still there. Maybe because of stealing luggage more than anything else, you know. So yeah. So if Clarence Thomas leaves, then we're going to get a George Soros. I mean, oh gosh, a Joe Biden appointed justice to the Supreme Court. Another replacement, you know. So, yeah, and then while everybody's distracted with all of this stuff, Israel's been having a good old time bombing Gaza. Oh boy, you know, I don't know. And now I guess just this morning. It's probably come out already. I'm sure that you'll hear this in the Duran and other people. They're now bombing Lebanon. They say Lebanon is behind it all. And when the time I read it, it was just fact that they bombed Lebanon and there wasn't that much story behind it. So now there's probably a lot more that's come out, Yeah. And don't forget that Kiev continues to bomb the Donbass. I heard of something, it was a little over a week ago, really a horrible story. Shouldn't even tell you. Some guy in his 70s, and the bomb took off both his legs and he's crawling, dragging his blood and things like that. They got him to hospital and he didn't live. But anyway, they had film footage of it. I didn't want to see it. Somebody offered it. I said I didn't want to see that. Very horrible stuff. And then I guess just yesterday, they bombed 2 places, killed 12 people, and I think they injured 7. Anyway, 12 people dead, and you're never going to hear that on any of the child looking at me on the corporate media. And of course, they're using NATO artillery guns and NATO ammo. Every week, HIMARS and stuff. I read something. Somebody says, "Oh, Russia destroyed all the HIMARS." What a bunch of crap, I don't know where some people come up with this stuff. And I guess they didn't destroy them all. Who knows how many they have, Ukraine. But anyway, they're getting more. They're getting more from the U.S. I think 3 or 4 more. And the U.S. just signed over another $2.1 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine. That was just announced, I believe that was yesterday, Yeah, they say, oh, Zelensky, he's now saying that he is willing to negotiate with Russia once his offensive has brought him to the borders of the Crimea. But it's not any kind of, they say, oh gosh, well now he's becoming a nice guy. Oh, look, see, he's a nice guy after all, But it's not any kind of negotiation like that. It's, you can expect it's not going to be anything to say, well, you can keep the Crimea or anything like that. It's you can use your imagination. It's nothing. He's not going to negotiate. He's not going to negotiate anything, The Crimea, I guess that's been part of Russia since 1783. And then in 1954, it was signed over administratively to the Crimea, even though all the people there are Russian. And so 1954 to 2014, that's 60 years. So it's been under the control of Ukraine for 60 years. And they want it back badly so that they can have the control of it and turn it over to the United States to get the administrative control, or NATO. And of course, Duda and Zelensky, I think he's still there, Zelensky, and he's talking with Duda, and they're saying that Ukraine will be in the EU and in NATO, and they will be brothers, Poland and Ukraine. So it makes you wonder what's going on there. Very tricky stuff, very tricky stuff. Makes you wonder what these people are they're gonna probably be at each other's throat at some point in time, Poland and Ukraine. And how could that be when so many people, they hate the Ukrainians? Unfortunately, because it's not really the people, it's these Banderites that massacred hundreds of thousands of Polish. They massacred hundreds of thousands of Belarusian peoples too. There's even a lot of people here they don't really care anymore. But yet this ideology still lives. And it's not that you hate the Ukrainians, you got to hate this ideology. And this ideology is controlling this country. So you I don't know, it makes you really wonder where people's brains are at sometimes, Even here, you got to worry about that ideology, and like I said, not these normal people. So the nasties, they want to lease the Crimea to the US of A. And this, there was an aide for Zelensky. What's his name? Mikhail Podolak. He said that once they get into Ukraine, immediately, well, they're not going to get in there, but just say that they do, immediately, basically he said, we're going to purge everything Russian, everything and everyone, and all those people that took Russian passports are traitors. And you know what they do to traitors in just about every country. So that's, you know, it's over for them. And that's like what, 96% of the population of the Crimea? There's, you talk about some of these biblical rivers of blood and things like that. Oh my God. Just think, they're not going to, luckily Russia's far too powerful. Unless the United States helps them, and then the US will walk out and not all the blood spill all over the place. You know, whatever it is. Neocons, like I said, neocons, neoliberals, neo-nasties. What's the difference? Basically, they're all buddies. They're all friends. They're just different branches of the same ideology. Yeah. And they say they're going to be there. This Mikhail Podolak, he said they're going to be there in 7 months. So by the end of the summer, they're going to have all of Crimea, they said. Take the Crimea in 7 months. And the Russian culture there will be destroyed. You know, it's a purge, actually. Let's see if I find his words here. The punishments will be given to Russian sympathizers, and everything Russian will be eradicated as soon as we enter. Everything Russian will be banned, including the language, he said. You won't be allowed in public to be speaking Russian. Look at this. I mean, talk about an ideology of hate. You know? What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It's like a form of racism, but they're the same race. You know, they're the Northern Slavic peoples. The same race, but yet racism. I think what they called that, you know, in the Times some years ago. Oh, look at this doggy. Even the dog notices I'm speaking a different language. He's looking back again. So, anyway, where was I at here? Anyway, yeah, I guess that's diversity, and it shows you what sort of ideology is taken over the world today. And you look at the sympathy of these people, you know, like in the West, everything for Ukraine. And you talk about what's going on in Paris right now. The people are protesting because of this pension reform. And it's only like 2 years. It's not really that big of a deal, but I think it's sort of a last straw sort of a thing against the government there. That you know, the government just doesn't really have much concern for the people of Paris or France whatsoever. You know, that's same ideology, same sort of people that are controlling the United States. They're all the same party, you know, basically, as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, it's more like a last straw sort of a thing. And yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. I was going to say something about these pensions and things, but oh yeah, what it was. You look at the West, even though it's not France where they're protesting about these pensions, but they're taking money from the American people and sending it to Ukraine to pay the pensions of the Ukrainians, and yet Americans are supposed to not have Social Security in less than 10 years. That's going to be gone. And then look at the billions and billions and billions that the West is putting in. I mean, don't you think that they could be putting that in Social Security funds or medical care or infrastructure in the country? Makes you wonder where their priorities are at. Terrible priorities in Western governments. Compare that to Belarus or Russia. Definitely to Belarus. You know, you ought to see what they do here in this country. And the jobs they create, not very good paying jobs, but they keep a lot of people working. There's virtually, it's very, very low unemployment. Their jobs, like I say, not paid well. You know, but there's little or no corruption. Even you talk to people in the government or even people that don't like the government here, and you mention, you know, corruption or money, and they'll all shake their heads and laugh. They know there's no corruption in Belarus. Belarus probably, you know, they're never going to rate this country as, you know, what it is on the corruption scale or anti-corruption scale, but it's probably undeniably one of the least corrupt countries on earth is Belarus. So one reason why I wanted to come here, you know, amongst other things. And then there's in the Russian parliament, you know, you're talking about these people that are prisoners. I think there's a guy named, kind of prisoners, Sergei Obukov. He's a Russian member of parliament. And he's suggesting that this Ivan Gershkovich, he's this Wall Street Journal reporter that Russia has right now in prison, or in detention at least. When they caught him red-handed, doing espionage things, getting probably military secrets to bring to the United States. And both are, they're saying to trade this guy for Donald Trump. Some are saying to trade, no, actually this guy, this Sergei Obukov, he's saying trade this Wall Street Journal reporter for Julian Assange, and send Julian Assange to Russia, and get his freedom. And then there's some other members of the parliament actually saying, no, one better, let's trade for Trump. We'll give them the Wall Street Journal reporter. Maybe they'll just throw in that Marine, what is it? Let's see if I can find his name. I wrote it down, I think, somewhere. Bout? No, Bout was Bout already. No, Bout was the Russian guy. Paul Whelan. They get Paul Whelan and the Wall Street Journal guy, and send over Julian Assange and Trump. Maybe that's what they should do. Jeez. Anyway, that was told to RIA Novosti. Let's swap Gershkovich for Assange instead. And anybody, I've asked this before, how come we're not hearing about Brittany Griner? Why isn't she coming forward? Why isn't there reporters talking about her? I think I don't know, maybe she's a person of principle, lesbian. Sure, she had some hashish or marijuana or something with her. I don't talk bad about lesbians and homosexuals, really. I don't understand them. I'm not that way. I've known some, so I kind of leave them alone. I'm against the promotion of it, like Barack Obama. Like Russia says it's not illegal to be, lesbian or homosexual, but it's just illegal to promote it. So I think that's a good way to go. So, yeah, then there's Noam Chomsky. I saw something with Noam Chomsky. He's kind of a little bit over the deep end in a lot of ways. He's a brilliant guy. What does he know? All kinds of languages. I can't remember how many languages he's known. I had a chance to meet somebody once in Bremen. He's the most knowledgeable person with languages on earth. I think he knows 60 languages. Anyway, Noam Chomsky is supposed to be an expert in 16 languages. He's a very good political analyst, quite a bit to the left. And he's kind of in some ways, it just kind of shows you that even if these guys are very intelligent, they're not brilliant in everything. He's saying that, where there is a possibility, of a nuclear war might destroy us, but he says that he thinks in about 2 years, he said a few, that we'll be destroyed by maybe global warming or climate change, and they've been talking about that for at least 100 years, climate change, global warming, but anyway, there's always been climate change. Climate change has been around for what, 1,000, since the beginning of time. So that's how that is. Yeah, he's kind of like I said, he's off the deep end there a little bit. But anyway, all these protests still going on in Paris, and taxing everybody to go pay for weapons for Ukraine, and then their shortfall on money, so they got to cut people's pensions. Yeah, that's brilliant, Yeah, and they say, just like Noam Chomsky and all these people, they're in favor of raising taxes, charging people up the backside all sorts of money to, I don't even know what to do with, as if they're going to change the weather by raising taxes. Gosh. So just pay a whole bunch of money and the weather's going to change. And then again, they block the investigation, the Democrats, for the biggest letting out of poisonous gases into the atmosphere in all recorded human history, the explosions of the Nord Stream pipelines. And they don't want to investigate that, but yet they're all for raising taxes. They're all for climate change reforms and all that sort of thing. Yes. I don't know. What does that tell you? But anyhow, that's about the news for this time. And I'll, you know, I'm going to go have a beer out of a glass, not some plastic cup thing. You know, when you drink a beer in these parks and things like that, they give you some plastic cup. Maybe I can. It's kind of a dark day. I don't know why. But if there's enough light, if I go to this little bar or something, I'll just maybe I can take a picture at least of the beer, being a nice Belarusian beer or something. And now that it's getting to be summer, I don't drink so much. You know, you're 2 days in a row, boy, that's terrible. I'm trying to lose weight a little bit, get rid of this fat from the summer. I mean, from the winter time. But so anyway, maybe I'll show you that. But anyway, if you're new here, you better subscribe. And if you're not new, you better push the like button. Like I said, I'm not getting that many subscribers. Obviously, YouTube is doing a number on me. They do a number on a lot of people, you know. I think they're going after Emil Kosman, and of course they get everybody in different ways, you know. But when you get so many viewers, if you get like 50,000 or something like that, you're going to get more and more viewers all the time. They caught me early talking about things they don't like, so I'm not getting any kind of promotion. So my viewership isn't really going up at all, because no new people, they're not going to let anybody watch my videos. They're not going to put it out on the free web there. So that's how life is. Maybe I find my own ways, you know, get myself promoted. I don't know, maybe, I don't know, have to think about that more in the future. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you the next time. Till then, bye.